All right, here's a heartfelt speech in that style, based on the 6 keynotes. I'll keep it flowing like a Friday sermon reminder, warm, sincere, and touching hearts, my beloved brothers and sisters. Long before the blessed birth of Muhammad, there was a divine plan unfolding. He came from a noble ancestry, a lineage that traced back to the Prophet Ibrahim through his son Ismail. This was no ordinary family line, it was preserved through generations of people known for their dignity, courage, and generosity. The Quraysh, his tribe, were custodians of the Kaaba, respected by the Arabs for their leadership, their trustworthiness, and their role in serving pilgrims. His father, Abdullah, was known for his purity and good character, yet he passed away before Muhammad was even born. His mother, Amina, was a woman of grace and honor who carried him with a sense of awe, for she had been told in dreams and signs that this child would carry a great mission. He entered this world in the year of the elephant, a year marked by Allah's protection of his sacred house when the army of Abraha was destroyed before it could harm the Kaaba. Even his birth came in a year of divine intervention, as if to announce that something special had arrived. Before he could even taste the sweetness of his father's care, he was born an orphan. Yet this was not a sign of weakness, rather, it was part of the preparation, for those who depend only on Allah grow with a strength that no wealth or status can provide. In keeping with the tradition of the Arabs, his mother entrusted him to a wet nurse from the desert, Halima al-Sadiya. It was in the open desert skies, far from the noise of the city, that he grew in purity, learning the clear Arabic tongue, breathing the fresh air, and experiencing the simplicity of life close to nature. His years with Halima's family were filled with blessings. Their flocks prospered, their lives changed, and they knew this child was unlike any other. When he returned to Makkah to live with his mother, he spent only a short time with her before she too passed away when he was just 6 years old. Once again, he tasted the pain of loss, yet Allah placed him in the care of his grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, a man deeply respected among Quraysh. Abdul Muttalib loved him dearly, giving him a place of honor, even seating him beside him at the gatherings of elders, a privilege no other child enjoyed. But within 2 years, his grandfather passed away as well, and he came under the guardianship of his uncle Abu Talib. Though Abu Talib was not wealthy, he loved Muhammad as his own son and would protect him fiercely throughout his youth and beyond. Even as a boy, people saw qualities in him that set him apart. He was truthful, he was kind, and he carried himself with a dignity beyond his years. While other children played aimlessly, he would often be found in thought, observing the world with a wisdom far beyond his age. My beloved brothers and sisters, as Muhammad grew into manhood, the purity of his heart and the truthfulness of his tongue became known to all. In the bustling markets of Makkah, where traders came from distant lands, he dealt with absolute honesty. Even those who did not share his beliefs would entrust him with their wealth and possessions, for they knew he would never betray a trust. He lived in a society drowning in idolatry, injustice, and moral decay. People worshipped stone idols, burying their daughters alive out of shame, exploiting the poor, and allowing corruption to fester. Yet Muhammad never bowed to an idol, never took part in immoral practices, and never uttered a word of falsehood. His heart was naturally inclined toward truth, justice, and purity. As he reached the age of 40, his soul longed for solitude and reflection. The noise and corruption of Makkah could not satisfy the yearning in his heart for something greater, something pure. He began to spend days at a time in the cave of Hira, a quiet place high up in the mountain of Nur. From there he could see the Kaaba below, but he would turn his gaze to the stars, the sky, and the silence, pondering the Creator of all that exists. It was in that sacred solitude, during the month of Ramadan, that the heavens opened and history changed forever. The angel Jibril appeared before him, his presence overwhelming, and commanded him, "Read." Muhammad, unlettered and untrained in reading or writing, replied humbly, "I am not one who reads." Again the command came, "Read," and again he expressed his inability. A third time the angel embraced him and said, "Read in the name of your Lord who created man from a clot. Read, and your Lord is the most generous who taught by the pen taught man that which he knew not." These were the very first words of revelation, words that spoke of knowledge, creation, and the generosity of the Creator. Shaken to his core, his heart pounding, Muhammad hurried down the mountain and returned to his home, seeking comfort in his beloved wife Khadijah. Wrapping him in a cloak, she reassured him with words of love and certainty. By Allah, he will never disgrace you. You uphold family ties, you help the poor, you speak the truth, you support those in need. This was not the beginning of a personal ambition, nor a quest for power. This was the moment the final messenger of Allah was appointed, a man chosen not for wealth or influence, but for the purity of his soul and the strength of his character. From that day, revelation would come to him, sometimes like the ringing of a bell, sometimes through the angel's presence, carrying guidance for all of mankind. The mission was clear: to call people to worship Allah alone, to abandon the idols, to establish justice, to speak the truth, and to live in peace. But my brothers and sisters, this was not a message the powerful elites of Makkah wanted to hear. They saw their authority threatened, their wealth at risk, their traditions challenged. And so the mission of the Prophet began, a mission that would face resistance, ridicule, and persecution, yet would illuminate the darkest hearts and transform the world forever. My beloved brothers and sisters, when we speak about the messenger of Allah, we are not speaking about a man who simply conveyed words. We are speaking about a man who lived every word of the message he carried. His character was the Qur'an in action. Anyone who met him, even for a short while, would testify to his goodness. His presence was calming. When he walked into a gathering, he did not demand attention. Hearts simply turned to him out of love and respect. His face carried a gentle smile, his speech was measured and clear, and his eyes were filled with compassion. He never interrupted someone speaking, and he never belittled another's opinion. In the streets of Makkah, children would run to him, and he would bend down to greet them, never passing them by without showing kindness. When he met the poor, he would sit with them on the ground and share what little he had. When he met strangers, he would listen to them with full attention, as though their words were the most important in the world. He forgave those who wronged him in ways that defied human instinct. In a land where revenge was a badge of honor, he taught that true strength was in forgiveness. When insulted, he remained silent or replied with words of peace. When harmed, he prayed for the guidance of the one who harmed him. At home, he was not a man who demanded service. He mended his own clothes, milked his own goat, and helped with household chores. Despite being the messenger of Allah, he would sit and eat with his companions as though he were one of them, never setting himself above others. He was a man of immense humility. When he entered Makkah as a victorious leader after years of persecution, he did not ride in with pride. His head was bowed in gratitude to Allah, so low that his forehead almost touched the saddle of his camel. He did not seek revenge on his enemies that day. He forgave them all. Even animals felt his mercy. He once saw a camel whose back had been worn down by heavy loads, and tears filled his eyes. He told its owner to fear Allah in how he treated his animal. In another instance, he stopped his army so that a mother bird could be reunited with her chicks. His mercy extended to all of creation. Those closest to him, his family, his companions, even his servants, testified that he never struck anyone, never raised his voice in anger, and never sought personal gain from any situation. Every act, every word, was for the sake of Allah and for the benefit of others. The more you read the earliest sources, the clearer it becomes. He was not just a man of great achievements, he was a man of perfect manners. His character was so radiant that it melted hatred, transformed enemies into friends, and turned entire nations toward truth. My beloved brothers and sisters, when the Prophet began to openly call his people to the worship of Allah alone, the winds of hostility quickly rose against him. The Quraysh, the proud leaders of Makkah, saw their authority, their trade, and their idols threatened. They could not bear to see their traditions challenged by a man they once called Al-Amin. At first, they tried persuasion. They came with offers, wealth, leadership, marriage to the finest women, if only he would stop preaching this message. But his reply was firm, unwavering. By Allah, if they were to place the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left, I would not abandon this call until Allah makes it prevail, or I perish in the process. When offers failed, they turned to ridicule. They called him a poet, a sorcerer, a madman, each accusation more desperate than the last. But his message spread like light in darkness, reaching the hearts of the poor, the slaves, the women, the young, those who yearned for justice and truth. So they turned to violence. His companions were tortured in the burning sands of Arabia. Bilal was dragged through the streets under the scorching sun, heavy stones on his chest, yet he repeated only one word, Ahad, Ahad, one, one. Sumayya became the first martyr in Islam, killed simply because she believed in Allah. They imposed a social and economic boycott on the Prophet and his followers, forcing them to live in the valley of Abu Talib. For 3 years they endured hunger so severe that the cries of children echoed in the night. They survived on leaves and whatever they could find, yet not a single believer abandoned their faith. The Prophet himself tasted deep personal loss. In the same year, he buried his beloved wife Khadijah, his source of comfort, and his protective uncle Abu Talib, who had shielded him from the Quraysh. This year became known as Amal, Hazan, the year of sorrow. With grief in his heart, he travelled to Taif seeking open ears, but instead was met with cruelty. The people mocked him, chased him out, and sent their children to throw stones until his blessed feet bled. Yet, my brothers and sisters, in that moment of pain, he did not curse them. Instead, he lifted his hands and prayed for their guidance, asking that perhaps their children or grandchildren would believe. Through every trial, whether it was the loneliness of rejection, the sting of hunger, the ache of loss, or the wounds of persecution, he remained steadfast. His strength was not drawn from wealth or armies, but from an unshakable trust in Allah's promise. He knew that the mission was greater than himself, and that every hardship was part of a divine plan. His perseverance became a beacon for his followers. When they saw his patience, they found patience. When they saw his courage, their fears melted away. And when they saw his unwavering hope, they learned that no darkness can last forever. My beloved brothers and sisters, the mission of Muhammad was not for a tribe, a race, or a time. It was for all of humanity, for all generations until the end of time. His teachings were like a spring of pure water flowing into a thirsty world, reviving dead hearts and cleansing corrupted souls. At the very core of his message was the oneness of Allah, the belief that the heavens, the earth, and all that lies between were created by one Lord, who alone is worthy of worship. This was not simply a theological point. It was a call to free people from every form of slavery to idols, to wealth, to status, and to their own desires. To declare La ilaha illallah was to reject falsehood and live a life rooted in truth. But this call to worship was never detached from moral action. He taught that true faith manifests in kindness to parents, honesty in trade, compassion for the poor, justice in leadership, and humility in success. Worship was not confined to prayer and fasting. It was in the smile you give your brother, the food you place in the hand of the hungry, the comfort you bring to the heart of the grieving. He reminded the strong to protect the weak, the wealthy to share with the poor, and the powerful to rule with justice. He warned against arrogance, oppression, and dishonesty, telling us that the most beloved people to Allah are those who bring the greatest benefit to others. The Prophet broke the chains of tribal pride and racial superiority that plagued his society. He stood before his companions and declared that no Arab is better than a non-Arab, no white is better than a black, and no black is better than a white, except in piety and good deeds. This was a message the world had never heard so clearly, and it remains one of the most powerful principles of justice today. He taught that the heart is the key to righteousness, that when the heart is pure, the actions are pure. He taught that mercy is not weakness, that patience is not passivity, and that forgiveness is not defeat. His message elevated the dignity of women, gave rights to the orphan, secured the property of the neighbor, and even forbade unnecessary harm to animals and the environment. His guidance touched every aspect of life. In worship, he taught sincerity and focus. In family life, he taught love, patience, and respect. In business, he taught fairness and trust. In governance, he taught consultation and accountability. No matter the situation, there was wisdom in his example, and this message was not meant to be locked away in books or reserved for scholars. It was meant to be lived by every believer, in every place, in every era. Whether in the deserts of Arabia or the cities of today, his words still speak directly to the human heart, calling it to rise above selfishness, to seek the pleasure of Allah, and to live as a source of goodness in the world. My beloved brothers and sisters, more than 1400 years have passed since the Prophet walked upon this earth. Yet his influence is as alive as the day he left this world. His footsteps may no longer press upon the sands of Arabia, but his teachings continue to shape lives, guide nations, and bring peace to restless hearts. The earliest generations carried his words and deeds with a devotion unmatched in history. They memorized his sayings, recorded his actions, and preserved them with precision so that no detail would be lost. His example, his Sunnah, became a living guide not just for worship, but for every moment of life, and here we are, centuries later, still finding in his life answers to the problems of our time. In an age of greed, his humility teaches us contentment. In an age of division, his call to unity reminds us that faith transcends race, color, and nationality. In an age of injustice, his example of fairness calls us to stand for truth, even against ourselves. His message was not bound to the deserts of Arabia. It crossed oceans, scaled mountains, and reached lands he never physically visited. From the bustling streets of Cairo to the quiet villages of Indonesia, from the snow-covered mosques of Central Asia to the vibrant markets of West Africa, his name is called out in the Adhan 5 times a day in every corner of the earth. What makes this legacy so powerful is that it is not dependent on force or wealth. It rests upon hearts transformed by faith. A simple verse he taught still brings tears to the eyes of believers. A single hadith still changes lives. His way of smiling, his manner of speaking, his habit of listening before replying, they continue to inspire people who never met him, but feel as if they know him. Even in matters the world struggles with today, conflict, poverty, family breakdown, the loss of moral compass, his guidance remains timeless. He taught leaders to be servants of their people, not their masters. He taught spouses to be garments for one another, offering warmth and protection. He taught the wealthy that their fortunes are a trust from Allah, to be shared, not hoarded, and his influence reaches beyond Muslims. Many who never accepted Islam have studied his life and found themselves admiring his justice, his mercy, and his vision. Philosophers, historians, and even critics have acknowledged the unmatched impact he left on the course of history. His legacy is not just in books, it is in the millions of believers who try, in their imperfect way, to follow his perfect example. It is in every act of charity done quietly, every injustice resisted, every truth spoken despite fear. It is in the way a believer lowers his gaze, guards his tongue, or forgives when revenge is within reach, because that is what the Prophet would do. And so, my brothers and sisters, his relevance is not a relic of the past. It is alive in the present, and it will remain until the final day, as long as hearts seek guidance, as long as souls yearn for peace, and as long as humanity needs a light in the darkness.